I'm pushing the rate. Niggas gon' slide every day.
Like, what was that experience for you?
Oh, that shit was dope. Fire. It was like, it's like his my was his. We was all good and we was like taking care of each other. They got on the roof, making sure everybody come in and now we know what's going on.
King Von, yeah, that's my son. Von, I ain't gonna lie. He was one of the few in the industry that I was immediate gravitation.
They don't hit us now. What's going on? She's gonna have you on that roof. Round. All right.
Fivio Foreign thought he was just swinging by O-Block to catch a vibe with King Von, shoot a quick music video, and dip out. But what he walked into? Way more than he bargained for. That visit flipped into a serious reality check. Real quick. O-Block wasn't just some rough neighborhood. It was a whole battlefield. And Von? He wasn't just another rapper trying to flex. He was moving like a real street general, eyes sharp, clocking every move. Fivio pulled up thinking it was all about the... He vanished and never looked back. So what did he see that had him low-key shaken? Fans still talking, saying Fivio looked shook for real. But the bigger question is, what did that moment show about how deep King Von really was in the game? At the time, Fivio was heating up heavy in the New York drill scene. Energy on 10, dropping hit after hit, rising fast like Pop Smoke and Chef G. Meanwhile, over in Chicago, Von was putting in work, gaining respect off his gritty, unfiltered street stories. He wasn't just rapping, he was laying out his real life and the streets felt it.
When it's Von like, yo, he like, yo, I got on the roof just in case. So I know it can get heavy. He said, this right here gonna stand by you the whole time. This is man's regular.
Von was holding it down for the drill pioneers, Chief Keef, Lil Durk, G Herbo, but his style? Way more direct, way more personal. So when Von and Fivio linked for I Am What I Am, fans knew it would be flames. But no one had a clue about the madness that went down behind the scenes. I Am What I Am turned out to be a straight-up anthem.
They don't hit us now. What's going on? She's gonna have you on that roof. Round. Right.
But what happened after? That's the part that had everyone talking. Once the track blew up, King Von hit Fivio with the invite to come through to O-Block, the heart of Southside known for its intense street energy. What was supposed to be a chill link-up ended up flipping into a moment that showed just how real things were in Von's world and how deep he really ran it. Fivio never went back after that wild visit, and that says a lot. Even before they met in person, there was already big respect between them. Both saw themselves as the face of drill in their cities. Von running Chicago, Fivio taking over New York, so teaming up on a track, that was a no-brainer. The collab came together quick.
They got on the roof, making sure everybody come in and now we know what's going on.
Fivio brought that turned-up energy, and Von delivered those raw, street-heavy bars. The mix of Von's real-life pain with Fivio's wild delivery had fans going nuts. It wasn't just a feature. It felt like the official link between Chicago and New York drill. The track racked up millions of views, endless comments, and had the streets buzzing non-stop. But for Von, this wasn't just about making a hit. It was about something deeper. Loyalty. He didn't just want Fivio to drop a verse and bounce. He wanted him to step into his world. That's why he told Fivio to pull up to O-Block. To Von, O-Block wasn't just his address. That was his whole foundation. That block raised him. He'd seen everything there. Good, bad, tragic. He took losses, earned stripes, and built his name on those streets. Every bar he spit came straight from that pavement. So when Von told Fivio to come through, that was more than a friendly invite. That was a silent challenge. Fivio agreed to slide.
Hey, gang.
Yeah.
I'll stop playing with us though, bro, for real. You know that shit be hurting them for real.
Yeah.
But he had no idea what he was walking into. The second his sneakers touched O-Block concrete, reality hit him hard. This wasn't no Brooklyn vibe. New York had its street rules for sure. But Chicago, that was different. O-Block had a heavy name, and if you weren't born in it, you had to tread real light. Meanwhile, Von was out there smooth as ever, cracking jokes, showing love, hugging folks, shaking hands like a boss pulling up to his kingdom. Fivio, he kept it quiet, head on a swivel, soaking it all in. At first, it felt chill like any other rap link-up. But then, things started to feel different. Fivio began catching on to the vibe. Something was off. Later on, Fivio let it slip. Von had snipers on the rooftops the whole time he was there. This wasn't just a casual meetup. This was locked down, boss-level security. Von knew the streets too well to be caught slipping. That's when everything hit Fivio. Von wasn't just talking tough in his lyrics. He was living that for real. Brooklyn had its grimy moments, no doubt. But what Von was dealing with in Chicago, that was survival in a whole different league. Von wasn't just keeping his head on a swivel. He had sharp eyes watching from above, locked in and ready. When fans later rewatched clips from that day, they zeroed in on Fivio's face. Some said he looked spooked, like the vibe was way too heavy. Others said he was just moving smart, respecting the space, knowing full well he was a guest in Von's house. Whatever the case, one thing's crystal clear. Fivio never went back. And to this day, fans still debate what really happened during that legendary trip to O-Block. Some folks swear Fivio got rattled by how deep that gang culture ran in Chicago. Others say he just saw the realness and decided, yeah, I'm good on that. But either way, that moment changed everything. Fivio came out with a whole new respect for Von and the life he was built from. This wasn't just music for Von. This was life and death. No cap, no fronting. Von wasn't putting on for the camera. He was standing in the same streets that raised him, bled for him, and took people he loved. For him, O-Block was everything. But for Fivio, that wasn't his world. And deep down, he knew it. Brooklyn and Chicago both bred drill, but the street codes, they hit different. Maybe that's why Fivio fell back after that visit. He saw how serious it really got and knew that wasn't his lane to stay in. To outsiders, Von's setup might have looked extreme. Like, who brings rooftop shooters to a video shoot? But to people who really know how the streets operate, that was standard procedure. Survival tactics. Von was too smart to let his guard down, even on his own block. He wasn't out here moving reckless. He was playing chess with real stakes. With threats always lurking and pressure coming from every direction, Von had to keep it tight. Corners covered, eyes in the cars, shooters on the roofs. For Fivio, seeing all that in real time, that was more than enough. It showed him exactly how real things got in Von's world, and that this drill life wasn't just sound and visuals. It was real blood, real pain, and real legacy. Fivio pulled up for the collab, but once he saw how deep it really got, he made a choice. He stayed in his own lane, and to keep it real, a lot of fans say that might have been the smartest decision he ever made. He saw it with his own eyes. Von wasn't like other rappers. He moved on a whole different level. That life, it wasn't just music to him. And Fivio, he realized quick, that world wasn't his. He wasn't about to get caught up in Chicago's street politics, where one wrong step could flip your whole situation. Some folks think he was straight up scared, based on the way he carried himself in the footage, how quiet he went after, and the fact that he never even hinted at going back. Everything about his vibe screamed one thing. He knew he was in too deep. No matter what the real reason was, it's facts. Fivio never touched O-Block again. And not long after that visit, King Von was gone. His death in Atlanta hit hard, not just for fans, but for the whole drill scene. It was a cold reminder that Von's life wasn't built on bars and beats. It was built on reality. Every line he rapped, every tweet he posted, the way he moved in public, it all reflected the real-life battle zone he came out of. So, how did it even get to this point? How did a young guy from one of Chicago's wildest blocks rise so fast, only to get taken out by the same world that made him? King Von, born David Bennett on August 9, 1994, came up in the gritty heart of Chicago. From day one, it was all around him. Not just poverty, but the streets, the gangs, the codes. He grew up in Killer Ward, right near West 78th and South Hermitage, a neighborhood where violence wasn't just part of life, it was life. And for Von, it wasn't just the neighborhood, it was the bloodline. His father, Walter E. Bennett, known on the streets as Silk, was a respected figure in the Black Disciples. So Von didn't just end up in that lifestyle by chance. He was raised in it, born into it, molded by it from the start. Von's life took a heartbreaking turn early on. His father was taken out by a sniper right outside a skating rink when Von was just 11 years old. That moment hit hard and shifted everything. It was one of his first major losses, and it cut deep. Even as a kid, he started seeing the world differently. That pain lit a fuse. By the time he was in 4th grade, he was already dipping into street life. And by 8th grade, he was knee-deep in violent situations. At first, Von was connected to a crew tied to the gangster disciples, holding it down in an area called Killer Ward. But things took a wild turn when he moved into Parkway Gardens, better known across the map as O-Block, around 2008 or 2009. That move changed everything. O-Block had deep roots with the Black Disciples, and that's where Von found his real footing. He linked up with heavy names like Boss Top, Chief Keef, and Roy, his closest homie, known in the streets as Roy Bitch. From there, Von's life started moving fast, real fast. His run-ins with the law kicked off young. At just 16 in 2010, Von caught his first major charge, armed robbery. That case had him looking at a terrifying 21 to 45 years. But he somehow skated past the worst and landed in a juvenile boot camp instead, doing 15 months. Still, the streets weren't done with him. He got out in March 2012, and by November, he was locked right back up. What came next was nothing short of chaos. Those years were drenched in violence, heartbreak, and nonstop beef. Von wasn't just another name floating around. His name started ringing bells. People feared him. The more friends he lost, the deeper he sank into the lifestyle. By the time he was just 18, Von had already built a serious reputation, someone who didn't wait around or play defense. If something happened, he clapped back instantly. He wasn't just surviving the trenches. He was turning into one of the most feared and talked about names in Chicago's underground scene. Von's slide into serious violence didn't just happen overnight. It was triggered by loss after loss. One of the first major blows came when O.D. Perry, a well-known figure in the Black Disciples, was gunned down in August 2011. That hit rocked the whole block. The pain ran so deep, they renamed Parkway Gardens to O-Block in his memory. OD's death didn't just leave a void, it turned the heat all the way up in the battle with the gangster disciples. Retaliation wasn't just talked about, it felt like a must. Then came the loss of Platoon, another known face from O-Block. Details about his death stayed foggy, but Von made it clear how much it hurt. He posted tributes on social media, letting everyone know that pain was real. But was White White? White wasn't just a friend, he was like family. He got shot and ended on August 9th, 2012, the same day Von turned 18. While most people celebrate that birthday as a step into adulthood, Von spent it mourning. That moment right there changed everything. A lot of people believe that was the final straw, the moment that turned Von ice cold. After that, something in him shifted. Von got louder online, tweeting things that made people wonder just how close he was to the action. And it wasn't all bark. The streets were buzzing with talk that Von wasn't just reacting. He might have been right in the middle of it. By July 2014, that talk caught up to him for real. Von got arrested for his alleged role in the homicide of Malcolm Stuckey, a case that could have put him away for life. This wasn't like his earlier charges. No short sentence, no slap on the wrist. This was serious time on the table, and prosecutors weren't playing. The case was stacked heavy. Prosecutors were aiming for a life sentence, and the evidence had him boxed in tight. Von ended up sitting behind bars for 3.5 years, just waiting for the trial to play out. But even with all that time locked down, his name didn't fade. It got bigger. Inside those prison walls, Von earned a new kind of respect. Word spread, and inmates started calling him grandson. Not just because of how he looked, but because he reminded them of David Barksdale, the original founder of the Black Disciples. That nickname wasn't just for show, it meant something. It spoke to how deep Von's roots were in that life, and how serious his name had become, both inside and outside. Von wasn't just sitting quietly while doing time, not even close. Word is, he got into more than 20 fights while locked up. He held his ground and let everybody know. He wasn't breaking for nobody. Then in 2017, the whole situation flipped. Von's co-defendant, Big Mike, had originally cooperated with police and was lined up to testify against him. But when the moment came, Big Mike switched it up. He took his statement back. With that key testimony gone, the prosecution didn't have enough left to keep Von pinned down. Just like that, Von beat the homicide case and walked free. But Big Mike? He wasn't so lucky. He ended up with a 28-year sentence. Von stepped out of jail in December 2017, a free man with a second shot at life. But the world he came back to had changed, and Von was stuck. He didn't know what direction to take. The streets still called to him. He even considered going back to robbery. It was what he knew. But then came the turning point. He linked back up with Lil Durk. Durk had been keeping an eye on Von from afar. He saw something different in him. The rawness, the truth, the energy. Durk knew Von had a real story to tell, and he pushed him to put it in the music. No more wasting time. It was time to speak through the mic instead of the streets. That's when Von dropped a track that made everything loud and clear. No filters, no sugarcoating. It was about the homicide case, how he beat it, how real it got. The streets locked in immediately. His voice was aggressive, his storytelling sharp, and every word felt real. Von wasn't just rapping about street life, he lived it, and that made the difference. His big break came later that year with Crazy Story. That track, straight cinema. It felt like a short film, a play-by-play of a robbery that went all the way left. Fans ate it up. Crazy Story wasn't just a song, it was a whole experience. The tension, the detail, the delivery, people were hooked. The track blew up, pulling in millions of views and throwing Von straight into the spotlight. And just to prove he wasn't a one-hit wonder, he followed up strong. Took Her to the O and Grandson for President both showed that Von had more than just one crazy story. He had a whole world to share, and people were finally listening. For the first time in his life, Von had a real shot at making it. No street drama, no jail time, no early grave, and he was all in, ready to run with it. But just because he was chasing fame didn't mean his past disappeared. Even while Von was behind bars, things in O-Block didn't cool off. They got hotter. A crew known as Get Back Gang started making noise, focused on one mission, avenging fallen soldiers, especially Von's close friend T. Roy. During that period, Chicago got rocked by a wave of high-profile homicide, including FBG, Brick, Kobe, and TB. The tension in the city was sky-high. More names were added to the list, and the streets weren't letting up. When Von came home, he didn't just rap about what he used to know, he plugged right back into it. Even after moving to Atlanta to zero in on his rap career, his loyalty to O-Block never wavered. He may have changed locations, but the connection, still strong. A major turning point came on June 15, 2018, when DeAndre Wallace, known on the streets as Can't Get Right, was shot and ended. The hit was caught on surveillance, and tragically, it also took the life of an innocent bystander. Not long after the news broke, Von went live on Instagram, smiling, laughing like he was celebrating something. Meanwhile, other O-Block names like Moop and Duke were dropping cryptic messages online that had fans speculating heavy. Von's music kept taking off. His numbers were climbing, and the industry was watching. But back in the streets, the violence wasn't slowing down. The higher Von rose in fame, the darker the cloud of controversy around him grew, and fans started wondering, was he really out of the game? Or just operating from a distance? Von kept dropping heat like Problems and Battle with Us, packing his lyrics with raw stories straight from the chaos he came up in. And if there was one thing about Von, he never faked it. He stood on who he was and the streets respected it. But all that fame, it came with a price. On November 6, 2020, it finally caught up to him, and the ending was devastating. That night, Von was out in Atlanta, posted up with his crew outside Monica Hookah Lounge. It started off like a regular night. Music, smoke, and good vibes. But things turned left quick. Tensions sparked between Von's camp and Quando Rondo's people, and nobody expected what happened next. Surveillance caught everything. Von stepped up and threw the first punch. Then, chaos. Within seconds, gunfire broke out. Right in the middle of it all, Timothy Leaks, known on the streets as Lol Tim and tied to Quando, pulled out and started blasting. Von got hit multiple times. The scene turned into a full-blown shootout. Bullets flying from all angles. Von dropped, wounded bad, while his team scrambled to get him to safety, trying to rush him to the hospital. But even with all efforts to save him, Von didn't pull through. That morning, he was pronounced dead. The hip-hop world was rocked. Fans, rappers, and industry heads couldn't believe it. Von had made it through so much, from the trenches of Chicago to beating a homicide case, only to lose his life in a city that wasn't even his. It hit different. His death reminded everyone that this life isn't a rap fantasy. It's survival. Von didn't just tell stories, he was the story. And in the end, that reality cost him everything. Meanwhile, Fivio Foreign stayed focused, building his music career, steering clear of drama, and making smart moves. And maybe that's exactly why he's still here, still shining. So what do you think? Was Von's loyalty his downfall? Did Fivio do the right thing by falling back when he did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear the full story. No sugarcoating. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay locked in.